Gold and Blue Dude here with you again. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. I make videos every single day, sometimes multiple videos depending on how active the day is or what kind of mood I'm in. So, if you don't like this video, maybe you'll like one of my other videos. So, one of my favorite things about college football has finally happened. And what is that? It is the preseason ranking polls. It is the ultimate source of arguments and discussions. And that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. So, I looked at the top 25 and the top 10 is pretty solid. After that, there's a few teams that's missing that should be in, and there's a few teams that are in that should be out. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. I think there's a few teams that are too low, too high, and that's what I'm talking about. The source of a great debate right here, the coaches poll, preseason poll for 2020. So let's go through the top 10 real quick. Number 1, Clemson. I think Clemson has established themselves as the number 1, the team to beat. I know they lost to LSU. LSU caught lightning in a bottle. An all-time great team, but they lost a lot of pieces. Clemson number 1. Number 2, Ohio State. I think those two are interchangeable. I think Ohio State could be number 1 as well because they have some great talent. Justin Fields, right up there with Trevor Lawrence. So I'm good with that as well. Number 3, Alabama. Now, Alabama had an off year, we'll call it, last year. And most of that was because Tua, injured himself, and they couldn't beat LSU and they couldn't beat Auburn. 2 losses for Alabama. When does that happen? Not when I predict it. Usually when I don't predict it, that's when it happens. So number 3, Alabama, I do think they will be back. Number 4, Georgia is starting to establish themselves as a perennial powerhouse. And honestly, I think, in my opinion, Georgia has a better chance of getting to the playoffs than Alabama. Alabama is in the SEC West, a little bit tougher schedule. So I think Georgia could be the one to represent the SEC. But, however, I do think Alabama will be better than last year. Number 5, LSU. I think this is actually a little high for LSU. They lost a ton of talent from last year. They lost Dave Aranda. I still think they could be a top 10 team, but number 5, prove it to me. That's all I got to say. Number 6 is Oklahoma. Again, I don't know about this because the quarterback's situation. I know Spencer Rattler is a 5-star recruit, and he's highly touted. And I also know that Lincoln Riley is the quarterback whisperer. I mean, he's had 2 Heisman Trophy winners and one other one that made it to the ceremony. So, why not put Oklahoma at number 6? Every time he gets a new quarterback in, I'm just like, all right. I guess he is the great quarterback whisperer. I don't know. Anyways, number 7, Penn State. Now, I think the coaches sent in their votes before Parsons declared that he was going to sit out for the 2020 season. I think without him, I don't see Penn State in number 7. I think they're outside of the top 10. 2, possibly 3 losses, but I'm going to stick with 2. Definitely not number 7. Number 8, Florida. I'm good with that. Kyle Trask, a great story. Florida looks like they're building. They're competing with Miami with a high-level recruit right now. If they grab him, they are definitely building for the future. Number 8, Florida. Number 9 is one of my teams that I think could possibly represent the Pac-12 in the playoffs, and that is Oregon. We see Oregon get better and better every year. I know Justin Herbert is gone, but Justin Herbert had a good year last year, but not the year that we thought he would have. So I think Oregon will be fine, top 10, and possibly get to the playoffs. But a lot of that has to do with the Pac-12 scheduling. I think they have a similar road like Clemson does as far as getting to the playoffs. Interesting point right there. Number 10, Notre Dame. Do I think Notre Dame's a top 10 team? Yes. Do I think they'll finish in the top 10? I don't know. That game at Clemson, that game home against Clemson, that's going to be the real test to see how good they are. Do I think they're going to beat Clemson? No. But I'm going to be watching as to how they respond to mistakes and how they respond to the athleticism of Clemson and if they can hang in that game. If they can lose by 10 points or less, then yes, I will say that Notre Dame is a top 10 team. But if they get blown out by Clemson, probably not. Number 11, Auburn. I think Auburn could be a sleeper in the SEC West. But the SEC West is so brutal. But I will say Bo Nix was a lot better than I thought he would be last year. And this will be another year under his belt as a sophomore. Bo Nix, watch out. Auburn sleeper, possibly. We'll see. Wisconsin, number 12. Oh, yeah, Wisconsin. They're very good at being very good, but not great. I think this is a perfect spot for Wisconsin. I think they'll finish right around here in that same ranking, possibly get into the top 10. Cristobal, great coach. He's got the Wisconsin power run game going. Excellent. We'll see how that goes. But 12, Wisconsin, I can buy that. Number 13, Texas A&M. I don't know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I guess you just throw it and see if it sticks on the wall. 14, Texas. Yes, I'm buying Texas this year. Sam Ehlinger. He could be better than, or Texas could be better than how it's been under Ehlinger. I don't know. I don't know if they slip up or whatever, but we'll see. I think Texas at number 14 is a good spot, and I think that could be a riser. However, this next team, Michigan, number 15. No, not a top 15 team. Possibly in the top 25, maybe, I don't know. I think Jim Harbaugh could be on the hot seat after this season because I think Michigan, once again, will lose to Ohio State. Finishes in the top 25, sure. Number 15, no. Number 16, Oklahoma State, yes. And Oklahoma State could be higher. Why? Chuba Hubbard. But we'll see how that turns out, and players still could opt out of the 2020 season, so we'll see how that goes. But I think Oklahoma State could be a high riser with Spencer Sanders and Chuba Hubbard and a lot of weapons on the offensive side. I think they could give Texas and Oklahoma a run for their money for the Big 12 championship. Number 17, USC. Don't sleep on USC possibly making it tough for Oregon to get to the playoffs. And who knows? If the deck falls right, if the stars align, USC could potentially be in the playoff conversation towards the end of the year. Their quarterback, Slovis, he looked better and better throughout the year last year. Decent coaching. Huntley's not the greatest, but he's good enough to keep USC in the top 20. I'm good with USC being 17 and possibly being a spoiler to Oregon. We'll see. Number 18, Minnesota. Nope. Last year was the magical year for Minnesota. Not going to happen again. I think Minnesota will fall out of the top 25. They lost too much talent and a decently tough schedule in the Big Ten. I think Minnesota could have 4 losses. We'll see. 18, no. Will they get back in the top 25? Possibly, but I still think 18 is too low. Or too high. Sorry. Too low, though. North Carolina. I know. North Carolina is being hyped. There is a reason. Sam Howard, he's a great quarterback. And it was just his first year. So he's going to get better. And if you go look at their defensive statistics, they were in the number 1, number 2 spot for taking the ball away. And the losses that they had were by 7 points or less. I know there's still losses, but Mike Brown has a history of taking the next step. I am buying North Carolina at number 19. And I think they could be possibly in the ACC championship game this year. I think it's going to be between them, Notre Dame, Clemson, and a team that did not make the top 25. Number 20, Utah, has no business on here. Last year was their shot to get to the playoffs. They blew it, and I think that's going to carry on to this year, and they lost some talent. I don't think Utah is a top 25 team, and I think they will immediately fall out in the first few weeks. Number 21, UCF. Yes, UCF is one of the best non-Power 5 teams every year, so I'm good with that. But number 22, I think, is going to be the best out of the group of 5 non-Power 5 teams. I think Cincinnati is starting to take the mantle from UCF. They beat them head-to-head last year. I think they'll do it again this year. And watch out for Luke Fickell. I think a big-name team is going to come and get him. Number 23, Iowa. Iowa's just tough to predict. Sometimes they do more with less, and sometimes they do less with more. So Iowa's a wait and see. Am I okay with it? Yeah, I'm okay with Iowa at number 23. Number 24, Virginia Tech. I have a big problem with Virginia being at 24. Virginia Tech being at 24. When is the NCAA and the coach is going to learn that Virginia Tech is not a top 25 team? They do this every stinking year. Preseason poll. Hey, it's a good idea to put Virginia Tech in the top 25 because we think they're good, and then they always fall out. Maybe they can creep back in, but at the end of the year, they're always out. Stop putting Virginia Tech in the top 25 in the preseason poll. They're going to disappoint every stinking year. And then number 25, Iowa State. Way too low for Iowa State. Iowa State is another big-time sleeper for the Big 12 championship, and I'm telling you, if the stars align for Iowa State, they could make a run for the playoffs. I know, that sounds crazy, but Iowa State is loaded, and their schedule is halfway decent. They can do it. Right now, I have them fourth in the Big 12. I think 25 is a good starting point, but I still think they should be higher. So, watch out for Iowa State in the Big 12, and this is their big chance to make a big splash for the Big 12 championship and possibly making a run to the playoffs. If they don't do it this year, then, yeah, it might be a long next 3 or 4 years. I'm just saying. So make it happen this year, Iowa State. And then there's one team that's not on here. Why are they not on here? Miami. Miami is going to be loaded this year. And this is the year for Miami because after this year, they're going to lose a ton of talent. They have a great defense. They have Derek King. I think he will be a Heisman Trophy contender. I think Miami could give Notre Dame, North Carolina, and Clemson a run for the ACC championship. Look, the ACC is going to be full of a lot of parity this year. It's not going to be the same old ACC. First of all, no divisions. Second of all, that means that the top 2 teams, no matter what, will be in the ACC championship. So it could be some rematches, possibly Clemson and Notre Dame rematch, possibly Clemson and Miami rematch, or they could end up playing North Carolina. Keep an eye out for the ACC. There's going to be a lot of parity this year in 2020. That's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.